point to the duckbill platypus, for example, and say, well, there we go. There's a guy that's halfway between a lizard and a mammal, and you know, I can see where that's where you would put it on the taxonomy of evolution. But the fact is, how come we don't find, intermediate species, between the platypus and the mammal, and some kind of mammal, and between the platypus and some kind of lizard? I mean, it's kind of like each species is like its own galaxy, and then every once in a while there's just a lone star out in intergalactic space.
The thing about
so that kind of thing sheds serious doubt on evolution. I mean, it doesn't prove it's wrong, but it really is something that they need to explain. And like I say, they have the hopeful monster theory, which basically says that evolution can take these giant leaps and become radically different, and then that's how natural selection acts on it. But then you've got the question of how did that get planned out? If there's no natural selection to plan the Great Leap, and the natural selection happens after the Great Leap has taken place, then it sounds like a great leap of faith to me.
The problem I have is that the fossil record is not
too busy.
Best evidence for evolution. Fossils are rare. They don't. I
would agree with that.
They don't happen all the time, so we only get a limited amount of fossils, especially considering all the life forms that are on the planet right now. Most of those things don't have a lot of fossils with them.
Certainly.
And the reason is that fossilization depends on quick burial and water being present, or some other kind of thing that would save them in some way, like amber or something. So if you don't have those things, you're not going to get the fossils that you want to see. And a way that I would like to kind of talk about evolution is if you imagine a triangle, and like a right triangle moving from the smallest end to the largest end. Any particular place that you find a fossil is going to be along that triangle, and it's going to make a smaller triangle that would be a transition. So there isn't transitions from pre-dog to dog. There is transitions from something that was a little bit less a dog to something that is a little bit more a dog, like we know now. There isn't this.
Well, that's what I'm disputing. I don't think that's true.
I brought up dogs because you can definitely see the progression within dogs, all the way back to the wolf, and you can see how that kind of spread out. Yeah, it's called breeding, but like you said, a teacup poodle and a Saint Bernard are almost not the same species anymore. They are almost not able to breed with each other, and so it's starting to diverge. Yeah, and that's how.
Well, it's mechanically difficult.
either the animals are no longer close enough together that they could breed, or they've changed to the point where it's no longer really mechanically possible. And then it becomes so that like horses and donkeys, where they can breed, but they have sterile offspring. Right. And I've always thought that the best reason explaining evolution is the distribution of species around the world. You have marsupials are only in Australia, and that's because Australia got separated, and it didn't have any of the big predators that would have killed them off. So that's why you have them now. There's a lot of better evidence than fossils to talk about the proof for evolution.
Well, I would say that it's true that of all living creatures that have ever been, very few of them have become fossils. But of the fossils that have been made, what I'm saying really holds true. There just are not the intermediate cases that you would expect to find somewheres. I mean, they're just, the duck-bill platypus is about the closest thing that you can come up to for an intermediate form. And like I say, it makes more sense to say that it's just another species of itself, because it's just its own very tiny one-star galaxy, so to speak. I think that it's extremely unlikely. It's extremely unlikely that we would have all these gaps without any fossils in them, or not many fossils in them, if species are in flux for so many eons.
To go to the duck-bill platypus.
I mean
to go to the duck-bill platypus.
I'm just saying that the gaps do mean something.
It lays eggs.
What's that?
It has scales on its tail, and it's poisonous, and the poison is found in reptiles. So that is a pretty good case that it's the so-called transitional fossil. But the thing is, the point that I'm trying to make is not that there's transitional fossils that are out there. It's that everybody's in transition. I am the transitional fossil from my parents to my children. The fossils that are picked out and showed in museums and stuff are, generally speaking, fossils that are not warped by whatever metamorphic heat was occurring at the time, and they are good to look at. They're interesting, but they're not the entire fossil record that we have. We have a great many more fossils for people to go and look at if they really want to. Like the Natural History Museum in Washington, D.C. is fantastic for that.
If I took a bunch of coin-like chips and that were all numbered 1 through 10, we'll say, and we've got buckets of these things, right? And they're all mixed together perfectly. And I close my eyes and I take out 2 handfuls and throw them on the floor, and we find that we only have the numbers 1 and 2, then 4 and 5, then 7 and 8. The probability of that being the case, even though it's a small sample that I pulled out of that, the probability that about the only way that we could expect that to happen is if the numbers 3, 6, and the next one were omitted in the first place. And that's my point, is that the fossil record is strong evidence of there not having been this plenitude of intermediate forms. I mean, like I say, I understand people look at the duck-bill platypus and say, yeah, you look at a bird too, and a bird's kind of like a lizard and kind of like a mammal too, but they're very different creatures. And like I say, they're